Hello YouTube. Well, today I'm in Mitchell, South Dakota at the world's only corn palace. It's totally decorated in corn and should be a good day. I showed up because it happens to be the day they're going to have a celebration. I don't know if I'm going to stick around for it, but and it's just before Sturgis, so all of the decorations are made from corn, using corn, and I believe they change it every year. So this is just the inside. Outside I can see they're still working on it. Like I said, they got a thing coming on. I believe that's all a sort of gift shop down there. But I'm gonna go take a look at, they've got pictures over here of along that wall of it through the years. So let's take a look. So I'm gonna go back in time. This is 2013 and 2012, so it's all odd number years on top and even numbered on the bottom. You get an idea of just how creative they can get. And again, all those decorations are made from corn. Don't worry, you just might inadvertently end up on YouTube. I travel the country looking for strange places.
Nice.
This ranks up there.
You found one.
And this comes down to 1892 is that bottom one. As we went along, you may have noticed this one from 1907, and they put a disclaimer here because before the Nazis took it, that was a Native American good luck. I thought I'd get you a closer look and prove it. Yes, it's made out of corn. Oh, here on the front, you've got Crazy Horse on this side, and actually on the other side, a depiction of itself. And I'm going to head around the other side there. So down the courtyard side, I've got this, and McGovern for president. If you're old enough like me, you remember George McGovern, and he's actually from Mitchell. Not sure if his museum's open, but and here's the rest of it. And as you can see up there, they're still working on it. Got the buffalo and the bow and arrow, but they haven't finished the rest of it. So the idea behind this was, I guess there was corn palaces in Iowa that sort of collapsed, fell apart, Not sure of that story, but in 1892, a real estate developer, there was only 3,000 people in this town, and they wanted to bring people in, and so they had a corn exposition in September. They built this, or a local carpenter built it, and everybody helped. So it has been going since then, so 1892, 128 years. That was the whole idea behind this. As you see from inside, it's set up for concerts and basketball, and who knows what else, whatever they can think of to use it. So I'm going to get on the road, and I think there's something interesting down this way. Well, let's go find out. Just on the outskirts of Mitchell, about 6 minutes away from the Corn Palace, is the site of an ancient Indian village. And it's on the shores of Lake Mitchell, but Lake Mitchell wasn't here at the time. They settled along a creek, and it was about a little over 1,000 years ago, around 1000 AD. And the people who settled here were culturally connected to people that settled along the Mississippi Valley. And it's quite possible when this site was abandoned that they moved farther west, settled along the Missouri River, and the may be the ancestors of the Mandan, who, if you know Lewis and Clark, they did spend some time with them. So if you ever wondered about the distinctive hump on a bison and just how tall, I mean, this is a small one, it's only about 7 foot tall, but I never realized that there was that arc of bones on the top of their skeleton. And this was the basis for a lot of things, and specific parts of the animal and what they could be used for, to get an idea. To paraphrase the saying about pigs, they use everything but the oink. With a bison, you use everything but the grunt. And one of the things would be making pemmican. And this is sort of representation of what it looks like. How you make it, you take the large bones, preferably the leg bones of one large buffalo. Break it into small pieces, boil the bones until the fat is rendered. Take the meat from the buffalo, females taste better, and dry. Once the meat is dried, grind it into a meal. Pound 16 pounds of choke cherries into a coarse meal, keeping the seeds and skins. Mix the rendered marrow fat with the dried meat and choke cherries. Place in a bladder or watertight container and seal. And it can last up to 8 years, and it's a good winter food as well as for traveling. And the corn would be stored in pits in the ground where it stay nice and dry. The bones of the animal could be used for all kinds of things, squash knives, awls, needles, like a fish hook, bone arrowheads, or even using the shoulder blade as a hoe. So the inside of a hut our house. We have beds around the outside, smoke hole up above with a couple of different, looks like fire pit here in the center, and the walls were not sure the outside, but we'll see. Maybe somewhere else in the museum they'll show us what's the interior of this. Okay, this gives you an idea of how the construction, a lot of stakes, wattle and weave, and here we are on the other end. You used to be able to walk through, but this year they are stopping it, and that might have been a representation of one of those storage pits for the corn. So just behind the actual entrance building is what they call the Archaeodome, and it reminds me of the Ashfall pits where they built the building right over the top of the excavation site. And what's nice is instead of just little hodgepodge digs, they can do a large area. And like over there, they've got cache pits, and you really get an idea. And down here is the midden, or basically outside the wall of the house, where I throw a lot of the bones. Let's take a walk around and see what else I can find. And of course, this is all over the top of one house. That'd be a roasting oven over there, and down here they've got some pottery shards along with all the bones, basically. This is the garbage pit. So, I mean, what was going on in the world around the time that this village was abandoned? Well, the Chinese developed gunpowder. Eric the Red, Viking, established a colony in Greenland. The King of Denmark became the King of England. And Edward the Confessor founded Westminster Abbey. So that was what was going on over in Europe when this was abandoned. Why was it abandoned? Well, is a good idea is that, as you saw, a lot of wood was needed to build the houses, and cooking and eating, and maybe it was just getting, wood was getting a little bit scarce. So it was time to move on. Like I said, they probably moved to along the Missouri. So when you think of corn, I mean, you think modern day ear corn, but originally, this is what wild maize looked like, and early cultivated maize. That's an idea of what our modern corn came from plants, sort of plants like that. And here's a progressive series of how we got closer and closer to what we know today. And corn was, or maize, was a staple all over the Americas. I mean, here's a basket from Peru, and here's a jar with a maize body, and here's god of lightning and rain, and he had maize headdress. So it was a very important food source all up and all through the Americas. So if you're a fan of Time Team, the British archaeological show, you get an idea. You know what geophys is. This is the 1988-89 version of using a proton magnetometer to survey this village site. So if you get a chance to come here with your kids, they definitely have some hands-on displays, as well as the ones behind, you know, in glass and stuff. So you see some pottery shards and artifacts, but to get an idea of what they would look like, they reconstructed it. These are Mississippian style or influenced. Now you may have heard of a bull boat, and they made something similar to this in Ireland using cowhide. It's sort of from all over. It's a very ancient form of boat, and it's basically a hide stretched over a frame. And being how it's hemispheric, I can't believe how stable or unstable this probably is. This one happens to be a bison hide strapped over those branches. So this whole area, I said, was the village, and the Archaeodome, or we just visited, turns out I was wrong. It's not over a building, it's over what's between the buildings. So there was a work area outside of the living quarters, and I've been told here where the fence is there's a remains of the ditch that they had around the building, and they did have a stockade palisade around, but it wasn't really there to protect from enemies. They figure the people here did not really have a lot of human enemies. It was more to keep the animals from running through the village on their way to the water, which the stream is underneath where Lake Mitchell is now. So I am gonna get on the road. If you ever get a chance, come down and stop in Mitchell to see the Corn Palace. That's pretty cool. But this place is way cooler. Learn a lot about the native culture here, and as usual, I didn't show you everything. I just showed you a lot of the interesting stuff. All right, I'm gonna get on the road, keep heading east, and see what I run into next. See you later, YouTube.
Jumped off the wagon